Bibles, the book of Mark, the 4th chapter. We're going to, a couple of weeks ago, before Mother's Day, we opened the Bible to Mark, the 4th chapter, and I was just kind of going to just do one message on it. And the Lord said, hold on a minute, Bump, not so fast. There are some truths here that are just, we need to dwell here for a while. Actually, we need to dwell here for years and years and years. The truth that we're talking about here today is completely life-changing. And when you begin to understand what Jesus is talking about here, you get a sense that, man, if I start doing what he's talking about here, my life will never be the same. So let's look at this parable that Jesus gives. We open up in Mark, the 4th chapter. The first part of that, Jesus talks about the parable of the sower. And it starts out with the farmer went out and he scattered some seed, and some of the seed fell on ground, and the birds came and ate it. And then the farmer threw some seed on some more ground, and the weeds choked it out. And the third one was the busyness of life, and the fourth one was good soil. That was 30 and 60 and 100 fold. And he goes on down, he talks about another parable, and then he comes to this parable in chapter 4. It says, Jesus also said, the kingdom of God is like a farmer who scatters seed on the ground. Night and day, while he sleeps or is awake, the seed sprouts and grows, but he does not understand how it happens. The earth produces the crop on its own. First a leaf blade pushes through, then the heads of wheat are formed, and finally the grain ripens. And as soon as the grain is ready, the farmer comes and harvests it with a sickle, for the harvest time has come. It is the parable of the sower and the reaper. The parable of sowing and reaping. Now, when I was a kid growing up, and I heard the story of the parable of the sower, it was always put into a real negative connotation. It was always going to be, you're going to reap what you sow, young man. If you reap a wind, you're going to reap a whirlwind. That's what I heard. And there was a character by the name of Pecos Bill. Anybody know who Pecos Bill is? Have you ever heard of Pecos Bill? Well, this is Pecos Bill. And Pecos Bill is riding a whirlwind. I had this book when I was a kid, so I thought, well, it's no big deal to have a whirlwind. I mean, if I sow a wind and I get a whirlwind, it's no big deal because, hey, maybe I can ride it like Pecos Bill. And so it really never began to sink into my life that, hey, there are consequences for reaping and sowing. When you plant something, you're going to reap something. But it was always put in such a negative connotation. It always was, you're going to reap what you sow. And it was always with a finger pointed in my face. But this is such a beautiful thing. It is such a beautiful thing. It is such a privilege. It is such an honor to be able to reap what we sow. It is such a great thing. If I sow something good, I get to reap something good. If I sow love, I get to reap love. If I sow faith, I get to reap faith. If I sow generosity, I get to reap generosity. If I sow kindness, I get to reap kindness. So whatever I put into my life, there's going to be a harvest of that, and I get to decide what that is going to be, and I get to decide how much of it is going to be. If I plant one seed of corn, I get one stalk of corn. But if I seed many seeds of corn, I get to reap many seeds or stalks of corn. You see the power of this? So I get to decide what I sow, and I also get to decide how much I reap. That's why Jesus says 30 and 60 and 100-fold, because we get to decide how much of that we get to reap by how much we sow. Paul says if you sow generously, you get to reap generously. You see the power of that? Now what's interesting about this is we go back to the book of Genesis. And we find in the book of Genesis something very, very cool. And let's set this up. Day 1, God makes light. Day 2, He makes the planet and the sun, and the stars. Day 3, this is what He says. Then God said, let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place so dry ground may appear. And that is what happened. And God called the dry ground land and the water seas. And God saw it was good. Listen to what he's doing. Then God said, let the land sprout with vegetation, every sort of seed-bearing plant, and trees that grow seed-bearing fruit. These seeds then will produce the kinds of plants and trees from which they came. You see that Jesus is talking about the parable of the sower. And he knows all about the story of the parable of the sower because he wrote it. He set this up. We remember that the book of John tells us that Jesus made everything. In fact, nothing that has ever been made has been made except through him. He's the one who did all of this. And so when he tells us the parable of the sower, he's talking about something he set up. And in Genesis 1, we see this pattern set up that the kinds of plants and trees from which they came, and it happened. That is so beautiful. Because it's unchanging, it's unaltered. It's always going to be this way. That when I plant corn, I get corn. And when I plant beans, I get beans. And when I plant onions, I get onions. It's so beautiful. There's no surprises in that. There's so much power in that. So let's spend a little time here. Let's dwell here. And let's think about the implications of this. I have here corn. Anybody have any gardens, by the way? How many of you have gardens? A few of you have gardens. Anybody planting corn? If I give you this corn, would you plant it for me? And then I can reap the harvest later? This is good corn right here. But here's the thing about corn. Does this corn do any good sitting in this packet? All it is potential, right? So as long as it's in this packet, it's just potential. It's a seed. It could do something if it was planted, but unless it is planted, it's just in a package. It has nothing. It means nothing. All it has is potential. The difference between this seed and a seed and a little grain of sand is potential. A sand has no potential whatsoever. It is just only going to be a grain of sand. But a seed has tremendous potential. But potential only happens when we open it and place it in the ground and water it. You see, as Christians, we can talk a lot about seed, and we can talk a lot about potential. But until we plant something into our lives, it doesn't have any consequence, good or bad. Until we plant something in us, or we plant something, actually do something, it is just like this seed, it just sits there. So we can talk about it all day long, but until we do something, that's when it changes. So, first thing we have to understand about the seed is it has to be planted. There has to be some sort of planting that takes place. Now, here's the other part of it. I grew up in Iowa, as many of you know, and I talk about it quite often. Every farmer knows one thing, that the grain doesn't plant itself and the grain doesn't harvest itself. There's no such thing in the farm life as something for nothing. There is no such thing in farmer talk as something for nothing. There has to be some seed planted. There has to be some sort of good soil there for it to grow in. Now in Iowa we put down herbicide to protect it from weeds, and we also put down some pesticide to protect it from bugs and worms so it can live up to its potential. And then after it's lived up to its potential, unless the farmer goes and gets it, it is still just potential. It's not until it's completely harvested is the cycle complete and it can begin again. So we have the potential of something incredible in our lives that when we plant good things into our lives, good things will happen. But good things will happen in a process. There is a season that takes place. First we plant, and then it grows, and then we harvest. We don't get to harvest first. We don't get to look at our lives and say, boy, you know what? I wish my life were better, but we've planted no seed. I wish my life were better, but we've caused nothing to grow. All we want is the harvest. I wish my life were better, and so we go out and try to harvest something, but unless something is planted, unless it's given time to grow, there cannot be a harvest. So there's three parts of that process that Jesus talks about. He talks about the farmer planting, and then the farmer kind of does his thing while the seed grows and becomes a plant, but then he has to go back out again and reap the harvest. So that's the three things that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks. Now, I want to talk about this great, incredible gift that God has given to us. And I think about sowing and reaping. And I think the greatest gift that God has given to us is Jesus. And I think probably the second greatest gift that He's given to us is the Holy Spirit. I don't know where this gift of sowing and reaping lies after that, but man, I'm putting it somewhere number 3 or number 4. Because it's so predictable. It's such a beautiful promise. God puts it right in the book of Genesis. Right from the very beginning, He tells us that this seed is going to give us the same thing over and over again. And here's the neat thing. If I go out and I plant my corn, and I say, you know what? I planted the corn, but I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to think really hard, and I'm going to wish that corn to become beans. Because I heard the bean prices are going to really be up this year, and corn prices are going to really be down this year. So I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to dwell, and I'm going to ask for that seed of corn to become a bean seed. Good luck, right? Then somebody's going to take me away in a little padded wagon and put me in a little white jacket and say, we got a special place for you, because it's not going to happen. If I want beans, guess what I have to do? I got to go out and plant some beans. So if I am planting things in my life that are of negative consequence, I can turn this whole thing around into something beautiful by planting something different. See how beautiful that is? I get to do that. I get to choose that. And I get to be the one who decides what goes into my garden. If I want good things in my life, then I plant good things in my garden. And it works every single time. It's absolutely as timeless as God Himself, because He put this into order. Now, I have this knife here, and some of you are probably saying, that's not a knife. Sorry, buddy. Can you guys remember Crocodile Dundee? That's not a knife. Now, this is a knife. I'm sorry, some of you kids don't get it. I don't even know what kind of knife this is. I hope it's kind of sharp, but we'll just see if we can't cut something here. So we have a little apple here. It is sharp enough to cut the apple, open the apple. So I'm going to open this apple, and what am I going to find inside of this apple? So I have in here a seed. And if I plant this seed, what am I going to get? And this is a Gala apple. Gala apples are great apples. I love Gala apples. So here's the Gala apple. So I take this seed right here, and I plant this seed, and I'm good enough to do this. I mean, come on, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to plant a seed. A child can plant a seed, right? I mean, you put a little thing in the ground, and then you put the sand in there, I mean, the seed in there, and you cover it up, and you throw some water on it, and then you got to kind of tend to it. But all the potential is in here to become a Gala apple tree. Now, you guys are too far away to really see this little tiny seed. See how small this seed is? Can you kind of see that? Does it look anything like an apple? Does this seed look like an apple? Would you have any idea that a great big tree is going to come out of this? You have no idea, right? Because it's just a small little seed. And in fact, you probably couldn't tell this apple seed from any other apple seed. from a Golden Delicious or a Red Delicious or a Jonathan. I mean, you'd have to be really skilled. You'd have to be a real nerd to know what kind of seed this is, right? But it doesn't look anything like what it's going to become. And sometimes the seeds that we plant, we have no idea what they're going to become. All we know is that when we plant that seed of kindness, or we plant that seed of goodness, or we plant that seed of faith, or we plant that seed of love, we don't know what it's going to grow into. All we know, that's what we've planted. We don't know its real potential. But the beauty of this seed is that it can grow up to become a seed, or to become a tree, and give hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apples. You see, God designed the earth for increase. He said, let it be fruitful and multiply. And He designed each one of you for increase. And He designed all of us to become increasing in the things that He wants to increase in our lives. And when you start understanding and looking at this language of sowing and reaping, and then you read through the Bible of the New Testament, you see the same thing over and over again, the fruits of the Spirit. And let this fruit come out of your life. And Paul talks about sowing, and Paul talks about reaping, and they talk about this because it's a basic thing of life. All we know is that this apple seed is going to be planted in the ground, and it's going to bring forth an apple tree that has the potential for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apples, from which can come more hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of more trees, from which can come thousands. You see, it becomes thousands and millions from just one seed. Because God designed the earth for increase, and He designed us for increase. That's why Jesus says, so that the good soil becomes 30 and 60 and 100-fold, because we have been designed for increase in the good things in life. So I also have here, anybody want half of a gala apple? It's for yours for the taking. Carol, would you like this? I expect a tree out of that. Okay, I mean, are you getting this? I mean, is this making sense to you? The potential of what comes out of seeds. Okay, so we have here a cucumber. So I'm just going to open up this cucumber, and anybody, what do you see there? Seeds, right? So this cucumber has been designed for increase, right? I'm going to cut this again. What do I see? More seeds. I'm going to cut this thing again. What do I see? More seeds. Man, God must have wanted a lot of cucumbers, because, man, I look around. I open this thing up, and man, there's just seeds. It's seeds from beginning to end. It's full of seeds. This has the potential for incredible growth, incredible increase, but only until I plant it. The potential is only there until I plant it. Once I plant it, now we've got something. If I eat it, all the potential's gone. But as long as I hold some of the seeds back, I can plant them again, and there's more seeds. Anybody take a guess? How many seeds do you think are in a cucumber? Average cucumber. Somebody give me a guess. 862 is exactly the number. Here's a free pass to Ciboli. Anybody else got a number? These were giveaways last night, so I don't know how many there are actually. So okay, so now we're going to open the cantaloupe. This is actually a pretty good night, I got to say. Neil, you're going to have to clean this up. So here we have cantaloupe. What are your odds that you think we're going to get watermelon out of this? I happen to really love watermelon, okay? But I've got a cantaloupe, so what am I going to get? Is all the prayer and all the meditation going to change this? Can I will this to become something else? it's only going to become what it is. It is what it is. It is a cantaloupe, and it's not going to become something else. Now, if I was a scientist and I had the ability to mutate and to make it become genetically altered, maybe over a few generations, I can make it a different color or whatever. But it's still going to be after its kind. It's still going to be a cantaloupe. That's so beautiful. It's so predictable. I am so thankful that when I plant a cantaloupe, I get a cantaloupe. You see how beautiful that is. There's no surprises here. There's nothing like, can you believe what happened to that garden last night? I know we put cantaloupe in the ground, and now we've got watermelon. What are we going to do with watermelon? I don't even like watermelon. Oh no, the potential is I planted cantaloupe and I got cantaloupe. Every single time. Without faith. You see, if the seed is good and the soil is good, I can absolutely predict what's going to happen. And if I plant one seed, I'm going to get one. But if I'm generous and I plant lots of seeds, I'm going to get lots back. You see the potential of that? You see how beautiful it is? So now we've come to a place in the life of Church of Dyer, First Christian Church of Dyer. We've come to this place in time. It's time for planting again. Harvest is not going to come on its own. There's going to have to be some planting first. So we have to decide what it is that we're going to plant. What field we're going to plant it in. Because if we know what we're going to plant, and we know where we're going to plant it, I know what the harvest is going to be. Absolutely guaranteed. Let's talk about your own life for just a moment. Where are you at in your life? If you're happy with the way everything is going, keep planting exactly what you've been planting. And we're going to be talking about, for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about seeds into your life. Things that you plant into your life. But if we're not real happy with the way things are going, and we kind of wish things were a little bit different, maybe we plant a little differently. You see, when I was a teenager, nobody really talked to me about planting. You talked to me about the good side of it. Get ready, if you do this, you're going to get this. And one of the ways it really shows itself is in finances, is in money. That money looks like a lot of other things, and that is that if we plant foolishness in our finances, guess what we're going to reap? But if we plant integrity and planning and careful investment, guess what the harvest is going to be? And it's going to work that way in every single area of my life. I can always predict what I will harvest by what I plant. Every single solitary time. Now there are circumstances in life that kind of come up that kind of derail that. I understand that. There are, maybe we have planned to live to be 75 or 80 or 85 years of age, and something has happened and now we don't get to live that potential. I understand. I have a brother-in-law whose life was taken at 37 years of age by a brain tumor. So much potential. I mean, that guy was an incredible preacher. I can get that. There are things that happen in life that kind of alter that. But if you are alive in this room and you're breathing in this room, you still have a lot of living to do. And it's never too late to start planting the things in life that can make such a huge difference in your life. It's never too late, and it's certainly never too early. If you're 5 years old in this room, or if you're 85 in this room, you still have time to plant. Now maybe you're in a situation where you're like, man, things are not going the way I want them to go. Things are not turning out the way I want them to turn out. It takes some time. You don't plant today and then get a harvest tomorrow. There's a little bit of a growing period. There's a little time there. And we're going to see over the next few weeks by the things that we plant in our lives, how that over time can really begin to change the outcome of our lives. 12, 13 years ago, I began to plant, 14 years ago, I began to plant differently in my life. Now I have a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful children, because I started planting differently. That's the potential of sowing. It's a great gift for us. A great, great gift. It is intended to be positive. It's intended to be uplifting. It's intended to be great for us. Let's use it to its greatness. Rolla's going to, and the band are going to come up and play a song, More Love, More Power, More of You in My Life. You see, Jesus, the seed of Jesus is perfect. It's the best seed. It's so predictable that when we plant Christ into our lives, we're going to reap love and joy and peace and patience and goodness and kindness and gentleness and love. Those are the things that are going to come as a result of planting Him in our lives. And so over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about great things to plant in our life. But it all begins with Jesus. If today you have not planted Jesus in your life, I'm telling you, the greatest harvest of your life is going to be the harvest that comes from planting Him in your life. Rolla's going to sing a song. If you